Okay, so I'm getting that most people are done, so we're gonna go ahead and start. So first of all, I'll love if you can turn on your cameras because it's nice to not talk to a bunch of little squares. But anyways, problem one, which of the following is the largest? Hopefully it's a pretty simple question. So what did you guys get for this one? Right, okay. So yep, D, that's right. Also you guys can feel free to public message. You don't have to direct message me. Um, unless you feel uncomfortable with doing so in public, of course. But yeah, the answer is D because first of all, like right off the bat, these can't be it, right? Because it's not even close to one half. So if you look at C and D, you'll see that 5/12 is much more closer to 3/8. So the answer is definitely D. It's pretty straightforward. Um, are there any questions on this before I move on? Just want to make sure. No? Okay. All right. Question two. What do we get for this question? Okay, Kemi says D. Bella says D. Esther says D. Okay, so I think we have a pretty fair vote on D. Would anyone like to share their thought process? Esther, would you like to show us how you solve this question? You can feel free to annotate if you want to on the board. Oh, okay. That's fine. Basically the way I would solve this question is that I would want to first look at 1 through 9. Right, Ricky, it is a fairly easy question, but I just want to talk about it in case anyone doesn't understand. Um, basically, this is an arithmetic sequence, right? And when you have an arithmetic sequence, what you do is you add the first term plus the last term, you multiply by the number of terms, and divide by 2. So in this case, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 would give you 10 times 9 over 2, which is 45. But of course, this is all over 10. So dividing all this by 10, you have 45 over 10. Adding this to 55 would give you 100 over 10, which is equivalent to D. Hopefully pretty straightforward. Are there any questions on this question? Questions on this question? Going once, going twice, going 3 times? No? Okay. All right, question 3. Each day, Maria must work 8 hours. This does not include the 45 minutes she takes for lunch. If she begins working at 7:25 a.m. and takes her lunch break at noon, then her working day will end at when? What did we get for this question? All right, someone said D, someone said C. Okay, so I guess this is like a question about time, and let's just work through it. So the first thing I would do is that I would account for the 45 minutes, right? Because that's not really nice. So I'm going to add that onto the time first, right? So I'm going to do that immediately. So first, you start at 7:25 a.m. You'd add 45 minutes, and that will take you to 8:10 a.m., right? Because 45 minutes after 7:25 is 8:10. And now you have 8 more hours at work, which means that you simply add 8 to the time. So that'll give you 16, 10, 8. But 16:10 is really for 10 in the afternoon, right? Because since AM and PM are each 12 hours, going 16:10 will be 4 hours and 10 minutes past the mark of noon. So it'd be 4:10 p.m. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on this? Alrighty. These are all really easy, straightforward warm-up questions. Problem 4, which of the following represents the result when the figure shown below is rotated clockwise 120 degrees around its center? A, B, C, D, or E? Let us vote. Ricky says B, B, B. Esther says B. Bella says B. Okay, I think we all pretty much agree that it's B. And that makes sense, right? Because 120 degrees is 1/3 of a full rotation, meaning that the triangle would replace the square will replace the circle, and the circle will replace the triangle, which is exactly what happened here. All right, let's look at question 5. Given that 1 mile is equal to 8 furlongs and 1 furlong is equal to 40 rods, the number of rods in 1 mile is what? Bella says B. Esther says B. Pimmy says B. Okay, I think we're all pretty agreed that the answer is B. All right. Okay, so this question is a classic example of a dimension analysis question. And dimension analysis questions, if you try to think about it in your head, it could be a little hard and convoluting. But if you write it out, it's actually the simplest questions out there, right? So what you would do is you start with 1 mile, right? Because that's the unit you're converting from. Now, you know that 1 mile is equal to 8 furlongs, meaning that if you multiply by 8 furlongs, I'm just going to write fur for furlong, divided by 1 mile, that's equivalent to multiplying by 1, right? Like this fraction here is really equal to 1 because 1 mile is equal to 8 furlongs. So 1 mile divided by 8 furlongs is 1, and 8 furlongs divided by 1 mile is also 1. So by multiplying by this fraction, you multiply by 1. Then, since 1 furlong is equal to 40 rods, you can multiply 40 rods over 1 furlong. Now, if you look at the units, they cancel. And you're left with 320 rods. So the answer is B, which is correct. So you might think that, oh my God, this question is so easy. It's obviously 320. But the reason I'm doing all of this dimension analysis is because this is actually a very useful tool in a greater application of a wide variety of sciences. For example, when you take chemistry and you convert between molarities of different molecules, this is the stuff and tools you're going to need to convert them, because when you have a lot of different units involving time, distance, weight, whatever, having these conversions will be much easier than just doing it in your head, because doing it in your head is very easily producing errors, but doing this would allow you to check your work, because if your units don't cancel, then you did something wrong. So are there any questions on this? It's a really easy question, but I hope that you learned something about this technique of dimension analysis from what we just talked about, because it's a really useful tool that's applicable beyond just simple math. No questions? Alrighty. Question 6. The units digit, ones digit of the product of any 6 consecutive positive whole numbers is A, 0, B, 2, C, 4, D, 6, and E, 8. What are our thoughts? What do we think? Kimmy says B with a question mark, or D? Okay. Are there any other ideas besides Kimmy? Good job, Kimmy, as always. Ricky says C. Okay. Sean says question mark. Zion says D question mark. Okay, so I think we're pretty split on this question. Um, sorry everyone, but unfortunately the answer is actually A. And you might be saying, what? But it's if you think about it, it's actually really simple, right? And Sean's like, huh? So I'm gonna give you a really simple example, right? So let's just look at this. 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6. What would this give you? Well, you have 6 times 4, which is 24, 24 times 5, which is 120, 120 times 6, which is 720. So you can see that in this case it's 0, right? Why is it 0? Well, because the string of product involves a 2, an even number, or a 4, and a 5, these two multiply together to give a 10. Then, no matter what the other number is multiplied to you, the 10 that's in a product will always produce a 0 in the end, right? For example, if you have like a random number like 9, 8, 5, 4, 7, whatever, times 10, your answer would involve a 0 in the end, right? In the units digit, you would have a 10 because, sorry, a 0 because of that. So then if you think about this in a broader scope and more generally, if you have 6 consecutive positive whole numbers, you're gonna have a 5 in there somewhere, right? If you don't believe me, just do a simple experiment. Start with any number. So let's say 77 and count. 77, 78, 79, 80. 80 is a multiple of 5, right? And multiplying 80 by something would give you a factor of 0 in the end. So the idea is that since numbers who are multiples of 5 are spaced out 5 across each other, if you have 6 consecutive numbers, it's going to include a factor of 5 somewhere in there. And when you have a 5 and an even number, you're going to get a 10, which is a 0 in the end. So the answer is A. Does this make sense? Are there any questions about this? Because I know most of us didn't quite get this question. Any questions, any comments, concerns? No? Alrighty. Let's look at question 7. We're actually really going pretty good today. Problem 7, if angle A is 60 degrees, angle E is 40 degrees, and angle C is 30 degrees, then angle BDC is what? Zion says A. Okay, I guess we just have one answer. Are there any other responses? Any other ideas? Did we all solve this question, or is it a little too hard? Is 60 times 40 times 30? Esther says B. Okay, so this question seems a little tough as well. Okay, no. Okay. Right, okay, someone said I don't know how to solve this. Okay, well, to solve this question, you do need a little prerequisite in geometry. But it's a really simple, oh, I don't want to draw that. It's a really simple prerequisite. And the idea is that in any random triangle, the 3 internal angles add up to 180. Right? So if you have any random triangles, like the 3 I drew here, the angles inside of it, the 3 angles, no matter how the triangle is shaped, will always add up to 180 degrees. Right? So, for example, in this one here, this angle might be, I don't know, like 40 degrees. And this angle might be like 100 degrees. And this angle then will be 180 minus 40 minus 100, which is another 40 degrees. Obviously, that's not true, but I'm just making numbers up to show you that the angles in the triangle always add up to 180. And similarly, if say this angle is like 70 degrees and this angle is like, I don't know, 40, 30 degrees, then this last angle here would be 80 degrees. You see, like, no matter how the triangle is configured, the angles always add up to 180. Then with that in mind, if you know that angle A is 60 degrees, and you know that angle E is 40 degrees, and that angle C is 30 degrees, then what can we figure out from this? Well, first of all, this shape here is a triangle, right? It's a triangle. Triangle ABE is a triangle. That means its angles add up to 180 degrees. Meaning that since you know angle A and angle E adds up to 100, 60 plus 40 is 100, angle B must be 180 minus 100, which is 80 degrees, right? But then if this angle here to the left is 80 degrees, then the angle to the right of it must be 100, right? And if this doesn't make sense, think about it like this. When you have a perpendicular angle like this, you have 90 degrees, right? This here is 90 degrees. But then that means if you double a perpendicular angle, you have two perpendicular angles next to each other, you get a straight line, right? The angle formed then will be a straight line like this. So then a straight line is 180 degrees. So, which explains why this is 100. But anyways, to finish this question, you would see that to find BDC, we simply have to subtract 130 from 180, which gives you 50. So the answer is B. Are there any questions on this question? Before we move on. You guys are kind of silent. Like, is everything that we're talking about making sense to you? Like, if you have a question, please ask, because I don't want you to sit here and be confounded and feel like you don't know what's going on. Okay. Someone said kinda. Is there any particular part you don't quite understand? Like, how can I help you achieve something other than kinda? What's confusing you? Okay. Well, I mean, with these questions, part of it is asking questions if you have them, but another part is just solving more questions, right? Because when you do more problems like this, these rules will become like fundamental to you, right? It'll be like the back of your hand. So yeah, let's move on to the final question. For how many three-digit whole numbers does the sum of the digits equal 25? Fairly interesting and creative question. What did we get for this one? Did we solve this problem or did we like not really get to it? Esther says C, Ricky says C. Okay. Ricky, would you like to explain your thought process? How did you get C? We'll love if you unmute. If you don't want to, you can annotate on the board too. Oh, okay, that's okay. So the way I would attack this problem is to first think like this. Consider the number 888. If you have this number, you'll notice that the sum of the digits add up to 24. But if the sum of our desired number adds up to 25, that means that one of these numbers must be a 9, right? Like at the minimum, whatever number you choose, one of them has to be a 9. Then if you have one of the digits equal to 9, the remaining digits would have a total value of 16. That means the two other digits can either be 8 and 8 or 7 and 9. Then that gives you a couple ways to arrange them, right? If you have 7 and 9, you can have 799, 979, or 997. If you have two 8s and a 9, you can have 889, 898, or 988. And you can verify that all of these numbers add up to 25, their digits. So the answer would be C. So this question really isn't that hard, but the only thing you do have to do is to realize that one of the digits has to be 9 for this to work. All right. Are there any questions on this problem or any of the problems we worked on in the past 20 minutes? If you don't understand something, tell me, right? Because if you have a question, maybe someone else has it as well. And I would encourage you to be a leader and be brave. Okay, well, I'm assuming we don't have any questions. So let's take a look at the next group of questions. So obviously, yes, these are much harder than what we just did, but I'm gonna give you guys 12 minutes to look at these because we do only have like 22 minutes left. So I'm gonna give you 12 minutes, solve as many of these as you can, and then we'll go over them in the remaining 10 minutes. Sounds good? You may go ahead and start. Okay, so I think a few people finished. A lot of people didn't, but that's completely okay because we don't have to finish it because it's not an actual test. But I do want to spend the remaining 10 minutes to talk about at least 4 of these questions. And if you're interested in learning how to solve the rest, you can stay after, but you're not required. Okay, so problem 9, a shopper buys a $100 coat on sale for 20% off. An additional $5 are taken off the sale price by using a discount coupon. A sales tax of 8% is paid on the final selling price. The total amount the shopper pays for the coat is what? Bella says A, Sean says A. And that's frankly exactly correct. And the way I would solve this is really just do a multiplication problem, right? Because a $100 coat for 20% off is equivalent to multiplying by 80%. And that's obviously just $80, right? And then you take a $5 off, so that's 80 minus 50, 80 minus 5 equals $75. Okay, the way I wrote this is a little problematic, but you get the idea. And then finally, since you do have to do an extra 8%, which is only in America, you multiply it by 1.08. That's equivalent to 108% because you do an extra 8%, right? So you have to add up to the 100% of the original amount that you're already paying. And that would give you $81. So the answer is A. So Sean and Bella, good job. You got it right. Okay, right, Ricky. So this question is it might look a little tough, but it's really just percentages, right? And the way you would think about this is like, okay, so you have a $100 coat for 20% off. If it's 20% off, that means you're only paying 80% of the price, right? And then you multiply that by 80%. And in case you don't know how that percentage multiplication works, it's basically 80% is equivalent to 0.8, right? So you basically, when you take off the percentage sign, you have to move the decimal place 2 places to the right. So you would do this decimal place transforms to here, and that will give you 0.8, right? So when you multiply by 80%, you're multiplying by 0.8. So 100 multiplied by 0.8 would give you $80. Now subtract that by 5, and you do the same thing with 8%, right? Because when you have an extra 8%, you're really paying 108% of your original price. So you move the decimal place 2 places to the left. I'm going to write it out just so you can see it better. This is equivalent to 75 times decimal right here, 1.08, and multiplying that out will give you $81. Does that make sense? Are you still confused? Okay, I think Ricky got it. All right. Okay, Ricky got it. That's great. Good job. Let's look at question 10. For how many positive integer values of n is the expression 36 over n plus 2 an integer? You have A7, B8, C9, D10, and E12. What did we get for this? Okay, so I think we're getting a little stumped by this. So there's a couple ways you can do this, right? So, I mean, first of all, you can just count, right? So you can just let n be numbers from 1 through 36, and then just see what works and what doesn't work, right? So let's say n equals 1. That would give you 36 divided by 1 plus 2, which is 3. 36 divided by 3, is that divisible? Well, 36 divided by 3 is 12, right? So n equals 1 works. What about n equals 2? Well, n equals 2 will give you 36 divided by 4, so that's 9, so it works. What about n equals 3? Well, 3 plus 2 is 5, and that's clearly not a factor of 36. So no, it wouldn't work. So what would you solve this? Would you just keep on counting like this, right? And if I say it out loud, it's going to take forever. But if you actually count in your head, it's much faster. Something else you could also do is list out the factors of 36, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, 36, right? You can see that these are all the factors of 36. And then since the expression is n plus 2, you would subtract 2 from each of these. So negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 4, 7, 10, 16, 34. And the numbers in the second row, there are also numbers in the first row will be valid numbers, right? So 1 works, 2 works, 4 works, 16 works. And so you would look at it like that. But yeah, you can either count this or you can do that. But when you do solve it, you would get an answer of 7. Are there any questions on this? Okay. Let's take a look at the question 11. Last summer, 100 students attended basketball camp. Of those attending, 52 were boys and 48 were girls. Also, 40 students were from Jonas Middle School and 60 were from Clay Middle School. 20 of the girls were from Jonas Middle School. How many of the boys were from Clay Middle School? Did we manage to solve this one? Okay, that's okay. Here's how you would think about it, right? So, first of all, I want to look at this. 20 of the girls are from Jonas Middle School. And 40 total students are from Jonas Middle School. So if you have 40 kids from Jonas Middle School and 20 of them are girls, that means 40 minus 20 equals 20 are boys from Jonas Middle School, right? I'm going to write a J here. But you can also see from here that there's a total of 52 boys. So that means there are exactly 52 minus 20 equals 32 boys who are not in Jonas Middle School. If they're not in Jonas Middle School, they're in Clay Middle School. So the answer is 32. So it looks kind of convoluting and distracting, but it's fairly simple. Hopefully you can see this. Yeah, it's actually a really simple question. All right, if there are no more questions, let's tackle the last one. All right, how many people managed to solve this? If you solve this, give me a thumbs up. You can use the emoji, or if you want to type the answer, that's fine too. Okay, I see A. Okay, so I think a fair number of people got the right answer. Right, okay, so the answer is A. That's correct. And the way to do this is really to just use symmetry. Right, so I will draw lines. Oh, shoot, my bad. I'm gonna draw some better lines than this. So the way I would solve this is to just draw lines. Like this. Right, and then after you draw these lines, you realize that the shaded areas are always exactly 1/4, right? For example, in this first one, you have a total of 8 triangles, 2 of them are shaded. And now you know 2 over 8 is 1/4. And figure number 2, 4 squares are there, 1 is shaded, so it's 1/4. Finally, in the last one, you have a total of 16 triangles, but 4 of them are shaded. So it's 4/16, which is 1/4. So as you can see, even though all of these figures look drastically different, they really are the same ratio. So the answer is A. Are there any questions on this? All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, we are done for today. And so thank you for coming and have a great weekend. Bye.